What's up, guys? This is Brave, and I'm back with another review of Growing Up Hip Hop. This is Season 7, Episode 7, and the episode is titled Ice Buck Challenge. Let's jump right into the review, and we start off with JoJo. He's actually meeting up with his mom, and I was actually happy to see her because we haven't seen their mom on the show probably since Angela had beef with her little sister. Y'all remember that? Nonetheless, his mom and him are shopping and they have a conversation about what has transpired between JoJo and Book. First things first, I want to say that clearly their issues stem from something far before this show got started. Okay? Now, JoJo says that, he's trying to do his best when it comes to this Book situation, but clearly Book has an issue with him. Now, JoJo's mom tries to tell him that, maybe it's a daddy thing. Maybe, honestly, he don't think that JoJo is fit for his daughter. I feel like that's what's happening here. If we're going to really call it a Buck, I think that Buck feels like probably before this show, before JoJo got some money from this show, before he was able to provide a platform for Denise to use, they were probably struggling. Like, I'm pretty sure of it because what was JoJo doing for real, y'all? Like, let's stop playing games. Let's not act like JoJo was able to get a job at Def Jam as if his uncle still ran it. That never happened. Um, JoJo is always talking about he producing this and he's doing that in the studio, but we ain't never heard nothing come from JoJo. Like, be for real. So it's good that he was able to get him and Denise on this platform because that provided some type of income for them. And I think that probably is the start of their issue as far as Buck. I think Buck sees JoJo as a guy who was not able to provide for his daughter. Now, I will say this, JoJo's mom definitely had a lot of good advice that they have to come to some type of common ground. Because at the end of the day, their families are intermingled. JoJo is Tanice's husband, and her dad is just going to have to accept that. Like, seriously. Also, if he ever plans on seeing his grandchildren, yeah, he might want to get to know their dad a little bit better. Now, JoJo mentioned that before they even got married, he had a conversation with Buck, and he thought things went well, but a few months after the wedding, he had another issue. And I'm just like, so why didn't you bring that issue up then? Here's my thing. I feel like a lot of times people, they just let stuff pile on, and then time goes by, and if the issue is never addressed, it is absolutely something that was probably small, but because everybody decided to wait on it, or just excuse the behavior, or feel like, oh, I don't need to address it, it becomes a whole bigger issue. Now, I also wanted to add in the fact that JoJo said that he has been with Denise for like 13 years now. 13 years, y'all. That's a long time. Because they have only been married maybe like since 3 years ago. I want to say it has not been that long because they definitely have had their baby boy. And I want to say they already had their daughter when they got married. So, yeah, that may also be a part of the issue. I feel like her daddy probably said, you've been wasting her time for all this, for all of this. Now you finally want to marry her? I don't know. Hopefully, by the end of the episode, we get to what this issue is. Also, speaking of that, I just want to point out the fact that JoJo was like, oh yeah, I'm going to meet up with him or whatever. He's going to meet up with Buck. And his mom was like, okay, cool. So now you guys can talk about it, whatever. And then JoJo made it a point to say that, but I have to go meet up with him. And it's like, listen, somebody going to have to move. Clearly, you already know Buck is stuck in his ways. So you know you're going to be the one that's going to be moving around. So let's not act like this is something new, JoJo. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and move on. Alright, y'all, so we actually get this boring scene with Egypt and Sam. They go cake tasting because, of course, they're going to have this really big wedding even though they already have been married. So, at one point, Egypt goes on to talk about how they're going to have 150 to 200 people at their wedding, and she's thinking about inviting Sean and TT. Did you already send them an invite, or is this filmed out of order? Nonetheless, we have Sam ranting about all these things that did not matter when it came to Sean. According to him, Sean basically throws rocks and hides his hands, and then he goes and tells Peppa and Tretch and anybody else that will listen that it's all Sam's fault. So you mean to tell me, Sam, that out of all the seasons that we've watched you on, you want us to believe, because we've seen your character, that it's all Sean that's the problem and not you? Sir, we've watched your behavior for years at this point. I'm pretty sure you had a heavy hand in the reason why Sean does not like you, and I'm pretty sure it's legitimate. Now, y'all, let's slide on over to Lazy Bone. He is in the studio. Now, this is not the typical bone that I know, but I'm just gonna let this old man rock. All right, so next thing you know, who shows up? Sequoia. I said, please let her finally be able to let this go so that we all can move forward. So basically, Sequoia came to see Lazy so that way, she can see how he's doing, because as we all know, his mother passed away, and he does open up a little bit about his mom and his relationship, how he loved his mom. And honestly, it is very sad because at the end of the day, nobody wants their mom to go. Well, most people, if they actually like their mama. And speaking of mothers, basically, Lazy said that he didn't want to come between Sequoia and her mom. And at this point, I feel like Sequoia is finally letting bygones be bygones. And now she's going to actually accept the relationship between her mom and Lazy. Let's go ahead and move on. So we have JoJo in the studio. He's playing the same song that he played earlier in the season, featuring Lil Easy and Brian McKnight's son. And Denise comes in. Baby, he cut that off as soon as she hit the door, and she wants to hear it, but he says no. He wants her to hear it when everybody else hears it. He does talk in his confessional about how, he wants to get back into actually rapping, because at one point when he tried to be a rapper, he wasn't getting the feedback that he wanted. AKA, y'all remember back in the day on Run's house when him and his friends was like a little rap group, and his dad wasn't feeling it. And then on top of that, I feel like, no offense, but JoJo, he never probably got the career that he wanted. But let's not forget that his little brother, Diggy had a little run for a little bit. When he was a teenager being a rapper, I want to say he was coming up probably around the time Mindless Behavior was a thing. But like I said, we have seen more success out of Diggy than we have seen out of any of the boys from, that family. Now, according to JoJo, he wanted to work, behind the scenes when things didn't work out when he was a rapper. So he decided to sign a couple of artists and, work that way. And he said that it was been successful. I have not heard of any artist that JoJo has signed, but I'm going to let him rock with this storyline. So he goes on to talk about how, he's going to be very excited to perform this song for Lazy's 50-year of hip hop thing, because he does come from a legacy, and Denise is excited to see him perform. All right, cute. Let's talk about this meeting with her dad, though. So he does tell her that he's going to meet with her father. And of course, she wants him to meet with her dad so that way they can, figure out what the issue is. But honestly, I kind of feel like maybe they should both meet with the dad at the same time, because I feel like there has to be like some type of ball of confusion that's happening here that we are not privy to, that they don't want to air out on the show, because something may end up. But let's just go ahead and move along. So Denise does tell him that she wants JoJo to have a good relationship with her dad. And I'm just kind of like, wait a second. So he been around for 13 years and they never got to a good point, or did something happen that y'all not telling us? Because it doesn't sound like this man hated JoJo since he met him. It doesn't sound like y'all have had these issues this whole time. So where did it take a turn? Can we start there? Because I'm really confused here. But let's go ahead and move along, because we have Tretch meeting up with Egypt. And I'm going to assume that they're at the venue that her wedding will be held at. It looked nice. There were definitely some elements that looked a little budget friendly, but nonetheless, it looked nice for Egypt and Sam. Now, in the confessional, according to Egypt, she wanted her wedding to be decadent and fantastical. I can't really say that I have heard those two words put together for a wedding, especially not the word fantastical, but we're going to go ahead and roll with it because this is Egypt's wedding. So Tretch tells her how she needs someone, or maybe one or two people, to kind of help her with the wedding, let them go ahead and start, handling things. Because at the end of the day, she's already the bride and she's also pregnant. Can't be doing too much. So Egypt brings up the fact that, of course, Tretch is going to walk her down the aisle. But now she has to talk to Tyran because maybe she wants both of them to walk her down the aisle. Now, y'all, I really don't remember Egypt's wedding that much from the previous season or whatever, but I did not realize that her own brother was not there. Like, that's weird to me, especially considering out of the entire family besides Peppa, Tyran gave Sam way more passes than anybody else did. So I'm very surprised that Tyran was not at the first wedding. So they briefly talk about her guest list, and of course, she has to let him know that TT was invited, as well as the rest of her family. They talk about her being pregnant. And honestly, the rest of the conversation did not even matter because they really didn't have anything to talk about in this scene. Let's go ahead and move on. So we actually see Sequoia. She's going to her mom's house. And I guess this was actually her mama's house, y'all, because she is moving in. There's boxes. And according to the family that was there, they said they were helping her unpack some stuff. One thing I will say is that they moved all the way from Lancaster. I said, oh, girl, you were living in Lancaster? I guess, girl. Nonetheless, Tiny wants to know, what is Sequoia's issue with her life? Like, what is going on that you feel like you can have so much judgment over Tiny's lifestyle at this point, Sequoia? So Sequoia tells her that she feels like her mom was jumping into this situation with Lazy too soon because, as you already know, she's going through this whole divorce with JoJo. She talks about how she felt like she was in the middle of things between Tiny and JoJo because when he couldn't get in contact with Tiny, then he would, call Sequoia asking her, has she seen her mom? And I'm like, wait a second. You can't put that on your mom because at the end of the day, that means that your dad is the one who's trying to stick you in the middle of this. And then the fact that she's like, I don't want things to go south with you and Lazy, and then I get put in the middle again where he's calling me trying to figure out where you are. Girl, they've been hiding their relationship for this long. I don't think that they would actually put you in the middle of it. I really don't. And her mom had to explain to her, like, listen, Lazy is not that kind of guy. Like, if anything, he's going to pull up and he's going to find me. He ain't about to involve you. So the mom, she says that she does understand Sequoia's feelings. However, Sequoia did come at her mama sideways. And the way she tried to address the situation, it was very childish. It was very much like a brat. And it definitely affected, how the mom felt about the whole situation. So Sequoia basically lets her mom know that, after everything that happened to Lazy's mom passing away, she realized that this fight isn't worth it. And she wants to go ahead and move on because at the end of the day, she would hate for something to happen to either her or her mom and they, end on bad terms. So, of course, the mom says her piece. They get up, they hug. You guys, Sequoia and her mom are now on good terms. Finally, because thank God this did not drag out the entire season. Let's go ahead and move along. Alright, so we actually do see a little clip of JoJo and Denise where we find out that they did not get the house because there was a buyer who put in an offer that was $100,000 cash over the price of the house. So they didn't get it. Denise was actually a little bit bummed about it, but, at the end of the day, they will find a house. I'm not sure if Denise and JoJo are going to, really buy a house out in LA just because LA is extremely expensive, but we shall see. Now, y'all, let's go ahead and talk about this conversation between Tretch and Tyran. We learned that Tyran has now gotten a motorcycle license. Good for him. Now, here goes Tretch with this conversation about Sam and how Sam's true colors are showing and he has a lot of maturing to do. Sir, we told you this years ago. We told you this when we met Sam. Brianna tried to tell you this, and you said that she was coming against the family. Remember all of that? Yeah. This is nothing new. Sam has been the same person. Baby, one thing about Sam is that he gonna be consistent in being the same Negro that he has been since we met him. Sam has been leeching off of this family since we met him, and you just now realize that after your daughter has married him, is planning a second wedding with him, and she has a baby on the way. Now it just kicked in to where you actually want to pay attention that, oh, wait a second, this man ain't the best man for my child, for my daughter? Bye, Tretch. And the crazy part is that Sam has finessed Tyran into believing that he's changing, because you got Tyran up here talking about some, oh, he's told me his plans about the hustle and, this, that, another. Like, Tyran, get a clue, because ain't no way you believe anything that Sam is talking about. Like, be for real. And then for Tretch to go on and be like, yeah, I heard about the businesses that whatever he's trying to start up. And then for Tretch to even bring up the fact that, he's trying to come up off of Egypt. We have literally been saying this, Tretch. Where have you been? So they talk about Egypt getting married again. And Tyran, to my surprise, he says he don't even know if he's going to go to this wedding, because at the end of the day, why was I not invited to the first one? Now, I can understand where Tyran is coming from, because, like I said, Tyran was more supportive of her and Sam than the rest of the family, to be honest. So he definitely should have been there. So he's like, I don't know if I'm going to show up. Tretch tells him, she wants you to walk her down the aisle with me and, just go ahead and think about it. But we already know Tyran is probably going to be there because, of course, no one wants to break Egypt's little heart. Let's go ahead and move on. All right, so we get this confrontation with JoJo and Tanice's father, Buck. So JoJo pulls up to the studio or whatever, walks in, speaks to everybody, and then, of course, the people who were extras there, they walked out of the room, and Buck actually gets on the phone, and he's like talking to, I want to say, his son, and he's like, should I hug him or should I slug him? Talking about JoJo or whatever. And it seemed like they were kind of in like a joking mood, because JoJo was chiming in to the guy on the phone because like they get along. So clearly the issue is only between Tanice's dad and JoJo. Like the rest of the family seemed to like him. Now y'all, I'm about to be so for real with y'all. I have no idea what the issue was, what was actually discussed, because this was the weirdest conversation I think that I have witnessed. Buck is literally smoking his hookah while he's talking about how JoJo has disrespected him. He ain't listed how JoJo did it, but he's saying that he's been disrespected. Both of these men are not talking facing each other. They are literally talking facing forward, not in each other's direction. Like the body language, the whole situation was weird. But I'm going to try to talk about it. So, Buck, he does say he doesn't know where to start because he had an issue with something that went down at the wedding. Then he mentioned the word control. And I'm like, wait a second. In what way do you possibly think that maybe JoJo is controlling Tanice? I'm just curious. All right, so at one point they are going back and forth and ain't nobody really saying nothing. Like they talking, but they ain't saying much. And finally, we have Tanice's father mentioning how, at Lil JoJo's birthday party, JoJo didn't say nothing, JoJo didn't speak to him. And honestly, I know that a lot of people feel like, oh, well, you walked into the room, so you should be the one to speak to everybody or whatever. When he did kind of speak to everybody, Buck did, first thing he did was say hello to Tanice, and then he went to go grab little JoJo. So at some point, yeah, JoJo could have definitely went up and spoke to that man instead of running and hiding because he was avoiding Tanice's father. Let's not act like JoJo completely went MIA and went to go anywhere else but where Buck was so that he could avoid speaking to him. Now, there was some other issues that occurred at this wedding, y'all, because all we got was the fairy tale clips of JoJo and Tanice getting married. They ain't show us nothing about Buck acting up. You know what I'm saying? So, according to JoJo, Buck was acting up, and Buck was saying that something wasn't going right with the wedding, something about it not being fair, and I don't know if it was maybe they only had JoJo's family sitting in the front and Tanice's family sitting in the back. Child, I don't know what it was because we never got to the, full story of what is the issue between these two men. Y'all, Buck start yelling about a king and a queen, and baby, he lost me. And then JoJo, he's saying how he doesn't have any control over anybody, but I'm assuming that Buck feels like maybe if he's having an issue with Denise, that JoJo should probably step in and be like, nah, fix the issue with your daddy or something. Child, I don't know. Y'all, I am really trying to understand what is going on. I'm not sure if this is just for TV. Like, this is just a lot, and it's so unnecessary. Now, according to Buck, he says that they need to go ahead and all come together and have a conversation. And baby, I cannot agree more because I feel like maybe Denise can help us understand what are the missing points here between her dad and JoJo. Now, at one point, they're going back and forth again, and JoJo, he talks about how Buck said something about their son, and of course, Buck is saying how you don't even know what the joke is. You don't even know what the joke was. Again, either way, Tanice's feelings were hurt. And the last conversation that y'all had, you didn't quite explain yourself well enough for her to even understand where you were coming from, sir. So then JoJo was like, well, like when my wife is hurt because of something that you said, I'm the one that she cries to, which is very true. Because at the end of the day, if her dad is hurting her feelings, she's going to lean on her husband. So basically, Buck feels like JoJo needs to step in when him and Denise are, I guess, not on good terms. JoJo said he can't make nobody do nothing, so that's between him and his daughter. Now, Buck is still not explaining exactly what happened between JoJo and him for him to have an issue with him. He just keeps saying that it's a lot of stuff. And even when it comes to them being engaged, I guess JoJo didn't come to him like, hey, I want to marry your daughter. I'm going to assume maybe that's one of the issues. But Buck said something, and he was like, oh, when it's something financial, she know how to pick up the phone, though. So now this brings on something else because this is where JoJo pipes up and is like, "Oh no, ain't nobody calling you now though. Ain't nobody calling you now for financial help." And Buck is saying, "Yeah, now you're not calling me." Then we get into this whole thing about how Buck has had to pay their rent, all this stuff. Like I said earlier, one thing I feel like is that they're not bringing the full storyline to us when it comes to this situation. And I do feel like at one point, you already know, clearly Denise comes from some type of money, okay? And I'm pretty sure she probably leaned on her family a lot if they were struggling financially because let's be for real, like I said earlier, what has JoJo's occupation been? We don't know nothing about JoJo really being a producer, really being an artist, him doing artist development, all these things that he says that he's doing. We have not seen it. So, I mean, I'm not trying to knock JoJo. I'm just saying we ain't seen it. So, I'm pretty sure they probably did have some financial struggles at some point, especially considering they've been together for 13 years. All because Rev Run is his dad, that does not mean that Rev Run has funded JoJo's entire lifestyle. Now, again, y'all, they start doing this yelling. I don't know what they were really saying. I'm trying to make it out. At one point, Buck is over here yelling about how he had to pay their rent, and JoJo, he even brings up something about him paying for the baby shower, and at one point, JoJo, I think he said that this was 8 years ago that he was paying the rent, and Buck was like, "Nah, that's a lie." Because what about when she was in Pennsylvania? I said, wait, why was she in Pennsylvania with her mom? Like, now I'm just so confused. Because I feel like, again, there is a huge chunk of information that we are not getting as viewers when it comes to this argument. So at one point, Buck is finally fed up and he tells JoJo to leave. Now, y'all, I don't know why JoJo didn't get up, but JoJo was like, I'm going to leave when I want to leave. So this was not the case for you to try to, hold your weight around and say you was just gonna leave when you wanted to. Because baby, next thing you know, Buck done got up, picked up the ice bucket that was on the table, and he throws it at JoJo. I did not expect that. Like I knew that it was coming because we saw it on the previews, but it was just like, really, sir? You could have just left the studio session. But again, JoJo, next time, just leave when somebody asks you to leave. Don't be places where you're not wanted, because that's where you really gonna get mistreated. Nonetheless, y'all, that was the episode. Let me know what y'all thought about it. Honestly, this episode, it was lame. Nothing really happened. Let's go ahead and chat down in the comments about what y'all thought about it. And I will talk to y'all in the next one. Bye, guys.